Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the preview of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift 2025. We had the victory of Kasia Niewiadoma last year. The edition last year was a cracker. It was better to watch than the men's Tour de France. I would say the High Mountain Queen stage was one of the best stages in all of cycling last year, and we've got high mountains again. We've got even bigger guns back at the start line. And we have a more competitive balance, Benji, than I think both of us anticipated than at the start of the season. I think if you polled Benji and I in January and said, what's the probability of Demi Vollering and FDJ Suez cleaning this up, we would have said 90%, or I would have at least. And I don't feel that way right now. She's still the favorite, but I don't feel that way right now, Benji.
I feel the same, and it's kind of an evolution of maybe multiple years, but also the evolution that we saw throughout this year. So I want to start off by kind of setting the stakes, like we did at the men's Tour de France preview, also for this one. And then I go back to the entire first Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, where we saw Annemiek van Vleuten winning ahead of Demi Vollering, and back then it was Annemiek van Vleuten who was on the throne as the best GC rider in women's cycling. And then that shifted towards the TDF 2023, where Annemiek van Vleuten gets dethroned, doesn't even podium the race, and it's Demi Vollering completely dominating the race, and her climbing performances in that race were a lot better than the competition. As simple as that. So there's one thing I do want to mention. Throughout these two Tour de France, 2022, 2023, there's a Polish rider on the podium, Kasia Niewiadoma, consistently riding well at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Then we go towards 2024, and that's the one you're talking about. The Tour de France that was very good last year with that epic finale. And I can't neglect the fact that I still think Demi Vollering wins that race with relative ease if SD Works does not bottle the race as hard as they did. On maybe stage 4, I'm not completely sure which stage it was, we have Demi Vollering crashing, and we see barely any teammates waiting. A teammate does win the race, Blanka Vash, but she didn't have to wait. Lorena Wiebes, who rode into Demi Vollering, who crashed, she rides on herself, not waiting for Demi Vollering, and at the end of the race, Demi Vollering loses this Tour de France by bare seconds. So that to me looks like a fuck up from the team. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, she lost by such a small margin, and then she also panicked on the Glandon and cooked herself, and she also was injured for that Queen stage, but it was entertaining. I mean, credits to Niewiadoma. Also, her and Dygert were in good position, and they pushed it. I think it was a different situation. Vollering tried to draw an equivalence. I don't know if she's very big on LinkedIn at the moment. I don't know why, but LinkedIn, like a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. Benji loves LinkedIn. He likes doing the chat GPT generator, like top 10 things I learned by being a podcast shit poster.
I did not post that shit. I dislike LinkedIn. That is the one platform that I've actively considered disappearing from outside of Twitter, but that's the usual every month scenario on Twitter. But LinkedIn, not having it. Also, no offense, Faulkner, love her on the bike, etc. But those super Silicon Valley-like tweets where she combined Silicon Valley with cycling, I'm sorry, but I don't give a fuck.
It's not good. I love a bit of LinkedIn, Benji. My favorite is whenever one of my mates has I use LinkedIn now, like I used to use with the same mentality, also because I don't have a real job, so I don't have to pretend to be normal anymore. I use LinkedIn like I used to use Facebook in like 2010 when someone would add the classic stitch up, when someone would like add a girl on Facebook, and you'd be like, is this the girl that you were saying you're really obsessed with? I use LinkedIn now, like someone says a new job posting, I'm like, oh, like I didn't know you were keen to work remotely. You said you love working remotely because you don't have to work all day. That's the classic stitch up now.
I'm sorry, but bring back MSN. MSN Messenger, that was the shit. That was great. That was awesome. Buzzing people to annoy them, playing Minesweeper every day. That's my life. LinkedIn, I'm not having it. Anyway, back to the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift.
I don't know how we got on that tangent. Anyway, I think I was saying Demi tried to draw an equivalence between what happened with the crash of Pogacar and the crash of her. I think they're slightly different because they were playing still for the stage win up front. Also, UAE dropped all their riders back. Anyway, this Tour de France, if you looked at just Demi in the February-March races, you say clean-up job, no one competitive with her. She wins this. FDJ also is so strong. Lebu, who has looked a bit off this year. Music, they're just way too good. Courigny, etc. But then both the top favourites, Demi and Reusser, look like they did one race too many. And so with Demi, that was Tour de Suisse, where there were steep climbs and Reusser just destroyed her. Reusser was just way stronger than her at Tour de Suisse. But then Reusser then goes to the Giro earlier this month. I was thinking she's going to clean that up. There's no Demi here. ELB and Van der Breggen not climbing on her level. And then Reusser, maybe through overconfidence, but Reusser gets cooked by ELB and got dropped by Gigante when they're on the longer climbs. So Gigante also announced herself as a serious climber again. So we have, they're the top favourites. Vollering at $1.36. She's still more than odds on to win in the betting. Royce is at $8. Nuvidoma is at $11. PFP is $13.
Okay.
Gigante is $13. ELB is $17. I don't know what Cassia or PFP have done this year to be shorter than ELB, frankly. And then Kopeckis 23, Van der Breggen 29, Kerbal 29, Lecourt 29, Royakas 34, Lebuth 67.
So, if I have to give my opinion on that, Demi Vollering being the favorite, logical to me.
Has
obviously.
to be, yeah.
I've got that opinion. Also towards the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Now, if we look at the actual riders that follow up, where you had your doubts, etc., I think Niewiadoma has that odds based on the last couple of years. Getting third, and first last year. That is consistency over the years. And let's be honest about it, before the Tour de France Femmes last year, her results were not that great either. Worse than this year, kind of. So I'd argue that she's looking better than last year before the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. So one spot better at Swiss, because I think she was fourth last year. And this year she got third. So slightly better there. Bit closer in Hill Classics, if I recall correctly. Might be wrong on that. But anyway, I've got this feeling that I expect consistency regardless of her previous results based on the last couple of years when it comes to Niewiadoma. Gigante, absolutely amazing climbing efforts at the Giro. The one thing I'm not sure about is there's a descent finish in this race, and let's be honest about it, descending is not necessarily a masterly skill by Gigante. And she's also got, like you said, Kim Lecourt-Pinard in the team. And based on what I've heard from the team, Gigante is here to support Lecourt-Pinard.
I can sort of see that. It's similar maybe to the pairing of Bunel and PFP. You've got maybe the better pure climber,
yeah,
but they have limitations. And then so you Bunel? Have the much more well-rounded rider, Lecourt, PFP, but maybe not the pure climbing upside. I would say with Gigante, and we said it, like she literally could not ride in the peloton a year ago. Like she did the entirety of stages, 10 feet behind the last rider. In the Giro, that was not the case. There was a marked difference. Now, it's not perfect, but there was a marked difference where she is at least in the peloton. She's drafting. She's not chasing the whole stage on the flat. And descending, she wasn't, okay, sometimes a little bit of a gap when they pushed, but not like last year on the descent off the Glandon, Benji, she lost 3 minutes or 4 minutes.
Yep.
Or like 3 or 4 minutes on one descent.
Crazy.
This year, in the Giro, it looked better. So that's also maybe she saved energy and she could then show her actual climbing level on the climbs in the Giro, where she won twice, 2 uphill finishes, destroyed everyone.
That is true, because if you're between brackets shit at descending, then you spend more energy trying to follow, making up for your mistakes in the corners, etc. And if you get better at it, which we noticed at the Giro, for example, then she might have the energy for those epic performances that we saw at the Giro. But on top of that, I would also say that we haven't gone to the parkour yet, but there's quite a few stages that I'd say, ooh, this feels more Le Cours Pinard than Gigante. But then when I look at the Madeleine stage, I'm like, okay, a Madeleine mountain finish, massive climb at the end of a stage. It would be a shame if we can't see Gigante ride 100% for herself on that stage. But at the end of the day, that's the reality of cycling. It depends on what GC looks like the day before, what GC looks like going into it, what the expectations are like for stage 8 that comes afterwards. So it is possible that we don't see her at her nuclear pace of the climbs, but at the end of the day, that will depend on the race before that.
But okay, let's do the parkour then, and let's talk about those tactics when we get to those stages, because I do have an opinion on that, and I don't agree that she should just be helping Lecourt, Kim Lecourt. I like KLCP.
Yeah,
that's her new name. I've decided KLCP, but I also don't see how much it helps to have someone wait for you on 9%. But
I agree, but I think they should just simply start with the focus of, okay, these two riders we have in GEC, and then the race decides who ends up being the leader towards the end of the race. I think that's the best way to look at it, because it's not like they only have Gigante and Kim Lecourt Pinard. They've got a pretty solid team next to it. But we're talking about AG Insurance Soudal here. Should we, before we go into the parkour, look at the top teams and who they have here, or how do we do this today?
Yeah, let's do the top teams. So AG Insurance Soudal, I mean, they are a top team here. They at the Giro, they had like 3 riders in the top 10 of half the mountain stages. You know, they've been, even at Norway, they bossed it. They have Justin Kira, who won a stage from a break last year, sort of a break. They have KLCP, who won Liège, is just is like top 5, top 10 rider in the world. Gladys Verhulst, Ilse Plumers, Julie van der Velde, Sarah Gigante. I don't know what Shari Besoit's done to deserve being in this team, but she's in the team.
She's a sprint option, I guess.
She's a sprint option. And it is kind of around KLCP for the first hilly stages. And then they're going to, I guess, they should hope Gigante doesn't lose too much time and then can do what she wants. But yeah, I agree that Hakira is the climbing support, or maybe she goes for a stage again in a break. It's a good team, and they punch way above their weight, this team. Way above their weight. The Shepard, maybe it would have been cool to see her. I think she's...
But she is still super young, so it's not a shocking surprise to me that after him, if I recall correctly, doing the Giro women's race recently, that she's not in this race either just after that. So 2 Grand Tours in a row, not a super surprise. That being said, big talent. Look forward to seeing that in the future. Let's talk about Vollring's team, because she is the big favorite for this race. And it is actually, on my list here, one of the teams that is not confirmed for this race. Most of the teams on this list are confirmed, but FDJ is not completely. Confirmed. Are they now confirmed?
Yeah, I mean, PCS just not updating it. They uploaded a graphic 18 hours ago, no?
Okay, perfect. Demi Vollring is their GC leader. Not a surprise. Next to her in the mountains, we've got Evita Muzic and Juliette Labou. We've got Amber Krak as well, Elise Chabi, Marie Lynette, and Ali Wollaston. So Wollaston is going to be the sprinting option, if I look at this, and the rest should be in support of Demi Vollring based on this list. Or do you think that this team will still have in their mind, okay, we want the best French rider in GC?
Nah, I think it's all in for Vollering. I mean, Muzic maybe can take she's still white jersey eligible, maybe not, because it's under 23.
I don't think so.
I do see a bit of tension here between Wollaston and Vollering.
Okay.
In that some of these first stages, Wollaston is more than capable of surviving, whilst Vollering is more than capable of taking bonus seconds. So I think it won't really matter, because Vollering will have the mental approach to this race that the first stages just don't matter, just don't lose time, and it's all about the last 2 stages. So it shouldn't be a problem, but that's something to watch. But yeah, this is a super strong team. Chabi was 3rd in Catalunya. It's a really, really, really strong team. There's no weaknesses in it. So yeah.
How do you approach the mountain train between brackets, knowing that in some mountain stages this year, Labou has been super strong. But then at the race you just mentioned with Shabby looked to be stronger in certain cases. Or you reckon they will know by the time Madeleine hits who's going to be the strongest one and who should pace after who?
They probably know already from the medium mountain stages before, but on their day, Labou, Muzic, Shabby, one can be stronger than the other.
Luxury benefit.
Yeah, luxury team. Canyon, SRAM, Zonda, Crypto have Skalniak, Soika, working for Cassia Nividoma, Bauernfeind, who won a stage from a break herself in this race, Neve Bradbury, the young climber, Chloe Dygert, Rouleur, maybe can go for a sprint. Yeah, actually, Dygert is more than capable of going for some of these uphill sprints. Ludwig, who looked better in the last couple of races in the Giro and the Tour of Britain. She actually was competitive for a stage, but then had a mechanical. Soraya Paladin as a all-round helper. She was strong in the Africa stage in the Giro. It's a good team. It's really around Niviadoma. Bradbury's there as a backup to help her on the climbs if needed. It's not as strong as FDJ, but it's still more than good enough.
It's more than good enough, and at the end of the day, to beat Demi Vollering, first of all, Niviadoma needs to be at a good enough climbing level to be near Demi Vollering. And on paper, you'd say if you look at the watts, then Vollering needs to have something happen to her in terms of shit tactics, a bad day, mechanical, crash, etc. for a victory for Niviadoma to occur. Or do you see the hill stages being captivating enough where Niviadoma could take some time? Because there's I'm sorry,
I don't think that they're not that hard.
This race starts in Bretagne. Why the hell are we not doing the Muur de Bretagne as a race finish?
I know, it would have been cool to see the punchers going out at... Did they do that in the 2021 race, like La Course?
Ooh, I do not remember that.
That's a throwback to that race. La Course finished on... no, that was the Côte de la Fosse au Loup, where Alaphilippe dropped everybody.
Alaphilippe.
They did that in La Course that year. The little trek they bring... we've just spoken about GC teams. This is a team with maybe more of a focus on a stage win or the points jersey. They bring Norsgaard, Van Anrooy, Balsamo. Balsamo is their green jersey option. Brand, who was top 10 last year, I think. And then Rihanna, Marcus Fisher, Black, Spratt. I basically think Marcus Fisher, Black, Spratt will try to get the best GC result possible. Maybe tries to take a stage from an anticipation on a medium mountain. And otherwise, they're going to go for Balsamo in the stage wins. Norsgaard has also won a stage in this race from a breakaway, I think, like a late breakaway. It's a pretty strong team. SD Works Pro Time. They bring Lotte Kopecky, Anna van der Breggen, Elena Cecchini, Blanca Vash, who won a stage last year in the infamous Demi Vollering crash stage. Lorena Wiebes, Misha Bredevold, Femke Gerritsen. Mega strong lead out. Best lead out in the race. Not even close. Not even close with Bredevold, Kopecky, Gerritsen for Wiebes. That's borderline untouchable. GC-wise, Kopecky, SD Works have already said she's out. She's not doing GC, and that choice was forced for them because in the Giro she was bad.
Her climbing level this year just has not been up to standards, as in up to standards to be able to compete in a race like the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift for GC. So that is just not happening. So it's logical that she ends up not going for GC and focuses on the things that she's standardly good at. There's a couple of stages here I think, okay, Kopecky could survive those hills and can fight for the stage victory. That is a realistic outcome for a lot of stages here. But Wiebes has also become quite a bit more versatile to the point that I'm not sure it's so easy to drop Wiebes on some of these stages. So it's going to be intriguing for the first four stages where the balance lies between Kopecky and Wiebes. Kopecky is still a better climber than Wiebes in my book. That's logical though. But the flat sprints are definitely for Wiebes. And like Charlotte Cole crashed last week. I've heard from the team that she's relatively okay, and they're still deciding whether she goes to the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift based on the fact that the team of Picnic Postinel has not been announced yet for this race. But Wiebes is, regardless of Cole, I know Cole won 2 stages last year. I know she had the yellow jersey. One of those was because Wiebes had a mechanical, but at the end of the day, Wiebes is still miles better than any other sprinter in the women's peloton. It's not even close. She's so incredibly good. And if we go to a sprint stage, Wiebes is always the favorite. And now with Vollering not being part of SD Works, it's going to be even more important. Wiebes within that team and her results in this race. But, Patrick, is there a realistic chance for a green jersey fight for Wiebes, knowing that she, if I recall, abandoned the last 2 editions?
Yeah, it's realistic. I mean, depends how she survives. She didn't abandon last year, but she was second.
Correct.
By 60 points to Voss. It depends on the intermediate sprint placements, which we'll get to. But no, she can. But if she wants to go for green, then there's no sharing with Kopecky. So that's the difficulty. Then maybe they sprint with both. I find it. I think they'll just go for Wiebes. I think Wiebes has some sort of hold over her. Like Roubaix was very, very strange, the way they raced. So I think how it'll pan out in the wash is that Kopecky will just ride for Wiebes if she's there. Van der Breggen for GC, she'll be going for a top 5, maybe podium. And
she'll try to go for a podium.
Yeah, she was 3rd in the Vuelta. She could have got a better result in the Giro, but she rode very strangely on. Van der Breggen just goes to the front of a group of 10 and just starts pacing on 6% and then gets counted. It's like, at what point do you realize that is not the play?
And it's not the first time. She's been doing this all year. So I'm sorry, but the way she's been racing this year, controversial take.
It ain't 2021 anymore.
Back in the day, she could do it. Back in the day, she could do it because the difference between her and the competition was so big that her giving draft to all the other riders wasn't enough to make them competitive. These days, it's not like that. She's not that good compared to the others that there's a difference on the road. So, as a result, if she goes to the front and rides 6 kilometers at 6% at the front of a 20-women group, then at the end of the day, she gets counted and dropped instantly. And to be honest, it doesn't shock me that throughout the last few years when she was in the team car of SD Works, that they had shit tactics. Not a surprise after seeing that.
Yeah, now there's climbers like Gigante who say in the Giro, it's like, thank you very much for the lead out, I'll be seeing you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, maybe she will ride a little bit more conservatively. UAE Team ADQ, I don't believe are announced, but they bring Elisa Longoborghini as their leader for this race. She just won the Giro, which is hard to have a better preparation than that. So she won the UAE Tour. In Burgos, she was second and was, but quite far away from Royce there, actually. So she was much closer to Royce uphill in the Giro than she was in Vuelta Burgos. And they'll have a strong team. They'll have Persico, Vladarchik. It'll just be Brody Chapman, I dare say. It'll be an all-round strong team. Over to Movistar with the second favourite, very strong as well. Royce, Lippert, Meiring, Magalhães, Sarah Martin, Jelena Erich, and Aude Bianic. So they have some proper rouleurs. They have some climbing domestiques, Martin and Magalhães and Meiring. And then Lippert will go for the uphill sprints, I would expect, in the first couple of stages. She just won 2 stages at the Giro. Yeah, she's been very, very good this year. And then Royce is for GC.
When I think about Lippert the last couple of weeks, she's really been at the level that I hope Lippert would be at this Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. And there's a couple of stages, like you said, where there's a bit of an uphill sprint in there. I think there's one in the first 4 stages. We'll get through them in a second. That I really think Lippert could be one of the co-favorites for. So that's definitely on the list. And when it comes to Reusser, I think you pointed at the right thing when you initially described her in this podcast, where there's been a few riders where they had to race too much in their preparation. And it looks like the Giro women's race was maybe one too much for Reusser, or we saw the reality of the situation where at a Grand Tour in the climbing, it might not be enough. Or did we actually see that the climbing level of Reusser at the Giro was worse than the climbing level of her in that previous races?
I think Gigante was just better. I think Gigante was just better, yeah. I don't have it off the top of my head, but yeah, Gigante, I remember her performances were like top climb performances. The Team Visma Lease bike bring Marianne Vos, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, Femke de Vries, Bunel, Lieke Nooyen, Van Aert, and Imogen Wolf. So they have Van Aert and Wolf for the uphill sprints to help Voss. So Voss, of course, has won the green jersey in this race last year. Yes. And she had to abandon the year before, and she won it the first year, so she won it 2 of the last 3 years, so she'll be going for green, of course. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot in the first year with the team is going for GC, so she's seeing how she can go in GC. Climbing this year has not been so good on her feet, and then in the Vuelta Femenina, and she hasn't raced since the 10th of May, so she's been preparing a long time for this race. And then De Vries is like all-round climbing support. Bunel, pure climber. Naesen is a flat ruler. Or actually, she can climb pretty well.
About Ferrand-Prévot here for a second, because when we see the promotions of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, it's all about 5-6 riders, and she's always on there because, well, she's quite a big athlete. People know her. People know her from her other disciplines, but also from her Paris-Roubaix victory. And I have to say, throughout the first few months of this season, I was like, okay, never going to happen. Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, her long climbing abilities, haven't seen anything like it. She's been off the bike quite a while, and I've actually heard quite a few messages from riders that trained with her, etc., that her long climbing has improved. So I'm curious to see what that's going to give at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, but based on the actual races I've seen, it's hard to imagine a podium for her. I wish it to her, probably would be good for the sport, but at the end of the day, it's hard to see it at the moment. Do you feel the same, or?
I think she'll be climbing a lot better than how she climbed in the Vuelta.
Yeah, she has to.
She has to. I think the first few stages actually suit her a lot, especially in combination with Voss if they're aggressive, and I think they have to be aggressive if you want to get rid of Wiebes, or put her under pressure in these uphill sprints. But we don't know. I mean, for a lot of these riders, the Madeleine, they haven't done an uphill finish that hard. I mean, they did do Alpe d'Huez last year, or the Tourmalet the year before, but Madeleine's even harder.
But if you play aggressively with the likes of Ferrand-Prévot on a hill stage, for example, does that not massively negatively impact the chances of a Bunel to survive those stages? Or do we not see Bunel as a GC candidate for this race in the first place?
I think it's going to be tough for Bunel to stay in GC. Like Catalunya, okay, there was a couple of like mountainous stages that then ended on the flat where there was a sprint, suits her. And then there was like a massive uphill finish, like a 1 hour climb where she came second and Vollering was doing like a TDFF simulation on Pal. But yeah, in the Vuelta, for example, she was top 10 on both uphill finishes, but in the in the crosswind, she just got cooked. So if there's that sort of racing, it's tough for her to stay in GC. And then if you want to do a good GC with PFP, Benji, you might want to use that terrain to put the Gigantes, the Bradburys of this world, the Fisher Blacks under pressure.
Yep. That's true.
Anyway, that's that team. So they also, a lot of these teams correctly bring like mixed ambitions, which you have to, I think, for the biggest race of the year. EF Education Oatly, Christian Faulkner will be going for a stage. Alison Jackson, actually very good uphill sprinter. I'd be interested, is she leading out Nomi Rouge or how that works? But Jackson, she's good on those sort of uphill sprints. Kerbel for GC, she was very good in the Vuelta. Henrietta Christie, Letizia Borghese, and Magdalene Vallières. Half that team's been up here at Rotan Velira, preparing at altitude before this race. And I'll just pick out a couple of other riders to follow. Ostolaza on Laboral Kutscher, good climber, top 10 Vuelta. Bjorndal Ottestad on UNOX Mobility. She won Norway, very good all-round rider. Did you win Norway or I make that up? No, she won it. And who else?
Phoenix.
Alina Janssen, and then of course Phoenix with a rider who nearly won this entire race last year.
Well, Buck Peterson is present, but also, like you said, Paulina Royakkers, who climbed fantastically in the last mountain stage and also has been climbing relatively well this year again. There's been a few moments where I was like, okay, Giro d'Italia women getting 4th in GC, for example. She can technically top 5 this race this year. I still have a hard time seeing podium. It has to happen on the pure mountain stages then, on the likes of Madeleine, etc. It is possible, the descent finish I'm not yet sold on, Rojakers. I know that last year she was able to follow Vollering in a certain descent in that epic mountain stage, but I'm still not super confident there. But Pieterse, obviously a candidate for the hilly stages. She's been super good there. I wonder what we'll see from her in general, because I think she ended up being on the brink of a top 10 last year in GC, maybe 11th or 12th. And just in general, she can win stages here. She can win a hilly stage in the same way Lippert can do. But I also want to throw Millie Cousins on the table. She's the new British champion. She's literally 21 years old, but she's been so incredibly good this year. She's one of those breakthrough riders that in the next couple of years, I expect quite a bit from her. And getting second in an Itzulia stage, stuff like that, it's always on the brink of a victory. And I feel like we might see her coming close to something here as well. But then again, I feel like she might have to ride in support of the leaders of the team most likely. But that's a name that you should write on your notebook because it's a very strong rider. But I also want to talk about Livelula Jaco. They've got Mavi Garcia, who we always know as a rider that, just like Anna van der Breggen, likes to ride at the front of a group, etc. But on the other hand, she tends to sometimes get a result out of that in a top 10 here, a top 10 there in GC. She's just a good climber like that. But I want to talk about Monica Trinca Colonel. What do you feel about her this year towards this Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift? Because the first half of her season is actually pretty damn good.
It is. I mean, top 10 in Liège and then fourth on her feet, seventh in the Vuelta. The problem is her form seems to have dropped a bit, or I don't know what happened in the Giro. She fell out of GC and then abandoned. Swiss not as good. Maybe it was the cold weather. But yeah, if she's in good shape, probably going to be their best GC option, given that, Mavi's been good and consistent, but in the Vuelta, she also, maybe she cooked herself on the last stage from memory. So to me, they have Silke Schmolders, who's like still improving, and she was very good in the hilly stages of the Giro, so she can attack and go for, maybe go for a stage win, but how they work with Paternoster and Rosemond Gannon and Schmolders on some of these hill stages, I don't know what the combination will be.
Is Ella Wiley still white jersey equivalent?
I'm not sure. She's turning 23 this year, so
her
maybe
GC
not.
This year has been a bit meh, to be honest, so I'm not completely sold on it. But Henrietta Christie from EF is also 23, so depending on what day throughout the year she was born, she might also be white jersey equivalent. I honestly don't know how this white jersey equivalency works, so we need to look at the asterisks.
Very few riders are actually eligible for it.
Okay.
I think it's between Julie Bego, Bunel, and they're
but
the main
Bego
two.
will try 100% because she's leader. No.
Yeah. Julie Bego will have full leadership at Cofidis. She's their best GC option. And Alina Janssen at Volker Vessel's probably one to watch, and Van Pachtenbeker, their sprint option maybe in some of the hilly stages. And to pick out another rider, I'm interested to see how Valentina Cavallà goes on the long climb, as well as Titia Rio. She also is white jersey eligible. She's a young talented climber on the Arkea B&B hotels. And at Sarah Tizet, they have two riders I would say to watch out for. Well, three actually. That's not true. Yeah, three. Sarah Van Dam, breakout season this year, top 20 rider in the world, 1,000 UCI points. And Danique Hengeveld, she won in a long solo in TDU. I think she'll try to do that again. She tried it in Norway. And Dilixin Miamont, who was second in the break in the Africa stage with Henderson and just got rolled. So she also will go for like a long break. I think that's all the teams, Benji. We want to get into the stages.
We mentioned Lago Borghini, right? Because I might have zoned out while we did. But she's definitely a candidate for GC if we haven't, because she's a pretty damn good cyclist, and she just won the Giro d'Italia women's race. So her team I don't have a list for yet. Vladarchik will probably be there, etc. So she'll have support. Anyway, like you said, on to the stages of this race, and I'll kick it off for this time. Usually you're kicking it off, Patrick. I'm taking the lead here with stage 1, Van to Plumelec. It's in the Bretagne region of France, so on the northwest northeast, no, northwest, southeast. Well, wait a second. What is the left again? Jesus. North or southwest? Yeah, okay. I had to do it in Dutch to understand. In the northwest of the country, that's where Britannia is. And that's where we're starting this first stage. And it's 78 kilometers only. It's first moment you say it looks flat, but it's actually got an uphill sprint in Plummelec. So how steep are we talking when we look at the actual gradients of this final? Are we talking Lorena Wiebe should still be able to compete? Or are we talking Leona Lippert shows up and starts to compete? I'm not feeling that yet.
I think both.
Okay.
I think both. So if you go and look at the Vuelta or one of Burgos finishes, I can't remember exactly, there was like a 1.5k 6% climb, and there wasn't a consistent pace from the bottom, and Wiebe still won anyway. It leveled off at the top, and this is the same finish more or less. The last 300 meters is 4%. Before then, it's 1.5Ks at 6.5%. It's nearly 2Ks at 6%. So I think it's both. I think in peak form, Kopecky, you just go for her and she just wins.
Yeah.
But I think if they do multiple laps of this too. So it's a pretty hilly course. I mean, 1,100 meters climbing in the 78Ks. Could even be some crosswinds at the start. But I think it's going to be between Vos, Lippert, Balsamo, and Wiebes. And, I mean, even Bredevold can win this. She nearly beat Vos in a similar finish in the Vuelta. But I think Wiebes still wins. I think the stage is too short and her shape is too good. 1.7, 1.8K, 6%? It depends, because there's 500 meters at 8%.
Ooh. That is steep, but she was super dominant in that Burgos finish, though. Like, it didn't feel
a bit
close.
easier.
That was 1.6K at 6%. And it ramped up towards the end, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So then it's really borderline, but I think Wiebes will be the marginal favorite. Probably should win with Kopecky helping her. It depends. Like, if I see what could happen and what other teams should do, like Ferron-Prevost should attack on the steep section to draw out Wiebes and make it harder, and so Vos can win. But I think it's going to be... I'll go with Lippert anyway.
Okay, I'm going with Lorena Wiebes taking the yellow jersey on stage 1 of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Your turn, buddy.
Stage 2, very similar stage, just a bit longer, more hills, 110Ks. By the way, the intermediate sprint on stage 1 is at the top of that finish line. So we'll see Wiebes and Vos sprinting there with 30Ks to go. Second stage from Brest to Quimper, 110Ks. Yeah, hillier, as I said, with some steep hills. The intermediate sprint, though, is on the flat start, so that's the advantage Wiebes. There are bonus seconds on top of the finish line with 25Ks to go. And it says it's like 570 meters, 8.4%. I think this is just an overall like harder stage. There's 2,000 meters of climbing. Could be crosswinds. But again, the finish is flat, the real finish. So the last 500 meters is like 2.5%, and the last 200 meters is 1%. So if Wiebes can survive, there's like a 250 meter, 300 meter, 12% wall where Puncher's got to go. You got, if you're Nivea Dome, if you're Lippert, you got to go there, or you got no chance.
I feel the same, but also if you look at like that bonus second sprint at 25 kilometers to go, that one that is 900 meters, no, 600 meters, whatever, at 8.4%, that's super steep as well. So we're going to see a proper battle for those bonus seconds if the break is called by that point, if there's a breakaway to begin with. But I agree that there is a chance here for punchers to do something, for punchers to put pressure on the teams with the more pure sprinters, but also for, like you already pointed at, Ferran-Prévot to put some pressure on other riders in favor of Marianne Vos, for example. And I think we'll see that kind of lean towards the end of this stage. And I'm kind of feeling riders like Vos for this finish, to be honest, and the likes of Kopecky over maybe Lorena Wiebes, because this is quite a bit hillier than stage 1, though.
Yeah, it's harder. So I think maybe Wiebes should be the favorite for stage 1, and this, I think, yeah, like Lippett's going to go crazy on that steep wall. It's going to draw the race out, and then maybe Kopecky can ride negatively in the wheels, and then or Bredevold even, and then win the stage. But yeah, I'm going to go with Voss too.
Okay, then we go over to stage number 3 from La Gacilly to Angers, 163 kilometers, and this is perhaps the flattest race we've had so far. There is a hill in the last 10 kilometers, which is about 700 meters at 4%, but that's not going to do much to the sprinters here. The intermediate sprinters with 40 kilometers to go is also relatively flat, so we'll see the green jersey candidate sprinting there, but this is, the sprint is still slightly uphill, it looks like a false uphill sprint, but this is Lorena Wiebes wins for me, as simple as that.
Wiebes should win, lead out's too good, and they'll dominate it. It's an uphill sprint. They come into town, and so it is, the lead out will matter a lot. I mean, they do, you have to be in position with 2Ks to go, because then they go across a bridge at 1.2 Ks. They then do 2 90-degree corners at 900 meters and 700 meters, and then there's a bend right with like 500 meters, so SD Works will just be in front and Wiebes will win. So that's what will happen on that stage. Stage 4 from Saumur to Poitiers is another sprint stage, and it's still like a little bit uphill, 300 meters at 3.2%, the last part, and then there's there's false flat drags, but still it's the flattest stage of the race, 780 meters of climbing over 134 Ks. Maybe there could be crosswinds, but I doubt it. The wind probably won't be strong enough, and to be boring, sorry, but Wiebes should just win again.
I agree. Wiebes wins stage 4, and so far 3 stage wins for Wiebes in my book, so let's hope we get an upset somewhere to make the race a bit more intriguing. Stage 5, we've got Chasseneuil-du-Poitou to Guéret, 165 kilometers in total. If you look at the parkour, the parkour falls flat ramps up towards the finish line, but it's actually just a basically relatively flat run in towards the final, where we have 3 categorized climbs. First, the intermediate sprint with about 40 kilometers to go. That looks like a slightly uphill intermediate sprint, so maybe favors the likes of Voss a little bit more. You'd say that, but then Wiebes can do that as well. So we're in an era where the top sprinter in the world is also versatile. After that comes 2 KOMs, of which we have 1.4K 5%, then 3.3K 4%. I'm sorry, but these gradients are not devastating, in my opinion. And then there's 1 climb at the finish line in the last 10 kilometers with that tops with 7-ish kilometers to go. There's a bonus second sprint on the climb, but not necessarily entirely at the top of the climb, apparently, according to this profile. And then at the top of the climb, there's KOM points, of course, not that that's going to be the focus for many people, but then a downhill run-in to a relatively flat finish in Guéret. And that last climb is 2.7 kilometers, 5.3%. Patrick, I'm sorry, but I was hoping it was a little bit steeper.
I think this will be hard enough to get rid of Wiebes or make her not win the stage. I know she got the very, very strong team. I think it's not enough for the punchers to really make a difference on the weaker puncher. Like the GC riders who can't punch, like Bradbury, Gigante, Bunel. I think this is, maybe they can still do it. I do like that they have the bonus sprint there because it'll really make them race. From the top of that climb to the finish is 7 Ks, not far. From the bottom of the descent to the finish is 3.8 Ks. The start of that descent is really steep and it's technical enough. We've seen a lot of descent splits in the women's cycling this year with teams pushing it. I feel a late attacker winning this. I'm looking at Cedrine Kerbol going for it on the descent, and like Van der Breggen, this reminds me of the stage Van der Breggen won the Vuelta where she attacked on the descent. And I think something similar will happen. So I think Voss will sprint for second. It'll help her green jersey, but an attacker will win.
I like the idea. I'm going for a Faulkner attack then instead as the final move. And that way we got a pretty similar scenario. It could also just be a versatile sprint. But you go Cedrine, I go Faulkner, and I gotta say, when I think of Cedrine, I also think about the next 2 stages. Stage 6 starts in Clermont-Ferrand, finishes in Ambert, and this is where the proper climbing starts.
Benji's taking my stages.
What do you mean I've taken your stages, buddy?
I'm even numbers today.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You can start.
This is theft.
Sorry.
This is theft.
No.
123.5 Ks from Clermont-Ferrand to Amber. And this is a mountain stage.
Sorry, but if you call it Amber, then you don't deserve to talk about the stage. Amber, my friend. Amber.
Ambit. And this is a mountain stage. Because like if you, let's say you adjust upwards the gradients to 7%, then, which is the equivalent in the men's, this is a really, really hard stage. This has 2,400 meters of climbing, which is a lot in 123 Ks. There's some hills at the start. The intermediate sprint is at the start, 30 Ks in on a 1.2K, 6% climb. Maybe a breakaway's gone by then. This is a big opportunity for a breakaway to win, I would say, because is it too hard for Wiebes? Probably.
Yes.
And so I don't see SD Works controlling it. Is it hard enough for Demi Vollering and Royster to say they're going to win the race today? No. So that says, to me, there's a Justine Hekira style opportunity to win this stage from the break, a Kristen Faulkner style opportunity to get ahead. She's too good now on GC. Like Kerbal, they will not just let her ride away on this stage. She's too good on GC nowadays. But sorry, I should finish. 10.3 Ks, 5.6%. But really, the climbing it's a 20K climb. The Col de Bille. Then it's the descent. Then they do the Col du Chanceur, 6.4 Ks, 5.5% descent. Short valley. Then the Valse Vierre, which is 4.6 Ks, 5%. There's another intermediate sprint on top of that, it says. And then a short 5K plateau before the start of the descent, which is not that hard. It's like, yeah, but that's still 7Ks to finish. And if Royce and Vollering want to race here, they can race. And they can put it's what they did in the Vuelta. It's what they did in like Setmana Valenciana. And I think there's a chance they go for it because these climbs are reasonably hard.
I think it's a realistic take, but I'm also digging the idea of a breakaway victory. Like, at the end of the day, we don't necessarily have breakaways every day in women's cycling, and especially breakaway victories in 1 week races, etc. Or I'd say more rare than in men's cycling. So that Justine Riquier victory last year, etc., stuff like that. That comes to mind to me. Bauerfeind. I really enjoyed those stage finishes. So I'm low-key vibing with a finish like that. I agree that it's hard enough for action in the GC group. But if we take a look at the race so far, if you really want to win this stage and you want to do it from the breakaway, then make sure you've lost time so far. Because otherwise, with the stages we've had so far, you're not going to be that far behind, right? Like, most riders won't be on 5 minutes after the first 5 stage of the Tour de France Femmes.
No. Although there'll be a fair few that just lose time through on the hills and splits, etc. I like... I
have a hard time for this one.
For this, I think, whilst I said break, there's a good chance Movistar control for a Lippert reduced group sprint. And if you're Phoenix to Koenig, I would control for a Puck Peters, a very small group sprint. So that could be what people are looking for, especially if Voss is dropped and they can drop her, which they didn't do on that Vuelta climb, but this is a much harder stage, the one that Van der Breggen snuck away on. So I'm going with, we haven't mentioned her for any of the uphill sprints where she will be relevant. And I think will be actually a thorn in the side of...
Don't say it. I'm scared.
What?
Who are you going to pick? Oh, okay, fair. Okay, you can have Peterson.
Yeah,
I think it's a good pick.
I forgot to mention, Peterson will be a thorn in the side of Wiebes for all those uphill sprints. Because she will go on the steepest section, absolutely full gas, and make it harder for Wiebes.
I'm going for Kimberly Lecourt-Pinard.
Oh, damn. Fuck. Yeah, so I think there could be like a group of 10 sprint, which sometimes it's harder. There's not control enough for that to happen. Stage 7, Benji.
Okay, Bourg-en-Bresse to Chambéry, 159 kilometers, mostly fat for the first 70 kilometers. There's an intermediate sprint after 73 kilometers on the flat. There's the first climb with about 50 kilometers to go. That's actually one of the steeper ones, 3.8 kilometers at 7.1%. That can do stuff. Then a slight flat section, not a long valley at all, before we get to the second categorized climb, which, I'm sorry, but I feel like the second categorized climb here is just part of the third climb of the day. It's just, they put a KOM point 2-3 kilometers into the final climb of the day is what it feels like for me. The Côte de Berlin, 1.2 kilometers, 7%. But we're all talking about the big climb here. The Col du Granier, that is the climb that tops with about 17 kilometers to go, roughly. Officially, it's 8.9 kilometers, 5.3%, but you're basically climbing for, if I had to guess, 14 kilometers with a bit of a plateau section in the middle. So that we need to keep in mind. Then after that, it's a descent to the finish line, which is kind of rare in the era where we're trying to make the sport safer, but I guess the Tour de France Femmes decided not to do that with this stage. We've got a stage that, gotta say, when you see this, I'm sorry, but Cédrine comes to mind because of that descent, no? But then on the climb itself, she should be dropped.
No, I don't think the climb's that hard.
Demi Vollering can drop people on that climb.
Yeah, she can. 4.5K, 6%. But does she want to do a 17K descent? Full?
That's the risk, eh?
She won't drop. But then if she brings Reusser with her, it's 17K is 5%. If Vollering and Reusser are rolling, it's curtains for everybody behind. And maybe you have at least a longer Borghini with you. So yeah. I think for a solo rider, it's going to be tricky. I think if those two get clear, it's going to be impossible to bring them back, and they can fight it out in the finish in Chambéry. Niewiadoma is a good descender. I don't think they'll just drop her so easily on this either, frankly.
Agree.
And but I think this is a GC group, and then I'm going to go with Reusser winning the sprint, like what happened in Tour de Suisse amongst the. Yeah, Vollering and Niewiadoma. Okay, but this will be like...
I haven't picked anyone yet.
Who you got?
I am... I'm trying to think for a second. I am going for... I feel like Anna van der Breggen returned to the bike this year. On this climb, there's a realistic chance that she'll spend 6 kilometers running at the front of the group of 15 riders. But a descent finish... with a flat sprint, I'm not feeling it, actually, the more I talk about it. And, like, I would love to say a rider in his name like Noemi Rug, but then I feel like the climbing might be too long for her. Or do you feel otherwise?
Too hard.
I also like the likes of Lecour, etc., but also on the brink for me. So I'm just going to go for a simplistic Demi Vollering victory.
There you go. Stage 8. The big one, the one we've all been waiting for, 112 kilometers long, 3,500 meters of climbing in 112 Ks. That is brutal. And it starts almost probably too hard, like 13.5 Ks, 6% out of neutral. They do what, a 35-minute climb out of neutral, 40-minute climb maybe. Then there's a descent, and then it's actually plateau for a bit, or like rolling valley. The intermediate sprint's 57 Ks in. I think Voss might want to get in the breakaway for that. And then it's more like rolling. There's still a 5K, 5% climb in the middle of this, but it looks like nothing because of what's coming afterwards, which is the Col de la Madeleine. Brutal climb, 19 Ks, 8%. It goes up to maybe 1,900 meters, I think, altitude. It's the hardest mountaintop finish this race has ever had. It goes up to 2,000 actually, and the start of it is really, really hard. The first 9 Ks is over 9%. There's like a section of 10% for like 4 Ks at the start. It's it's brutal, and I wonder if there'll be OTL risk. That's the thing, because if you get dropped on that first climb, and then you're not in a group in the valley afterwards, and then you have to do the Madeleine, it's going to be tough for you. 70 minutes it'll take for them to do this. Maybe 65 if they're a Gigante wants to. This whole race is leading up to this. Everything before this maybe isn't irrelevant. And I think if you're I think if I'm Vollering and Reusser, I take my opportunities to put free time into Gigante. So the stage before Benji, where they can attack on 3K 6%, get a gap on the descent, relay, and probably put a minute into Gigante over a 17K descent. I think you want to take those opportunities, because what if she puts 2 minutes into you on this?
I feel like Gigante, despite her epic performance at the Giro, might still be underrated by the normal Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift GC riders. And therefore, I don't necessarily expect them to all out attempt to, let's focus on dropping Gigante on these first 5-6 stages. That's the one thing I have against your theory, that I'm not sure if the Jesus' main goal is going to be, let's try and get rid of riders like Gigante. I think it will be, let's try and bring Vollering to Côte de la Madeleine in the best possible position to win this race, in a way by bringing her there without any issues before, without any time loss before, and then she has to do what she does best, which is be the best climber in the world on paper. That there. But Gigante this year, her level in climbing has been excellent. Is that going to be the same as the Giro women's race? I don't know. That's a question mark. But on paper, the possibility, the ceiling is there. I want to do a quick correction. I'm going to remove my Vollering pick for stage 7 and replace it by Kerbal, because I need to stick with my guts and that descent finish. But I still think Demi Vollering wins on Côte de la Madeleine and wins the Tour de France Femmes here.
I think there's a decent chance for a Fenestra style problem for Vollering.
Yeah.
In that, if she gets the lead out, attacks. She's now isolated. She has Reusser in her wheel, Royackers in her wheel, Gigante in her wheel. Gigante gets a gap. I think Vollering has big problems, because Reusser's not going to relay, and Gigante's not easy to bring back.
And Vollering is Vollering.
And Vollering will start panicking.
Yeah.
So I think you do need that time buffer to the pure climbers, and then you can work on ELB and Reusser, who should not be climbing better than Vollering on this. And yeah, maybe Benji, she gets the lead out, just drops everybody, puts them on 2 minutes. Maybe she does.
Yep.
But in Swiss, that didn't happen. And
in the other races, it kind of did, though.
In the Vuelta, it did. So I guess, yeah, but she'll be in... But yeah, maybe Reusser improved. I don't know. So I still... Yeah, Vollering will be the favorite, but I'm going to go with Gigante.
Okay.
For the
Gotta
stage.
stick with the Aussies. I know it's not a biased pick. I know it's a realistic pick. Because after the Giro, then you definitely want to bring it forward. I'd love to see Gigante go 100% for herself on this climb. But it depends on what the GC situation is for the team in the run-up to the stage, of course, with Le Courpinard, etc. We'll see. Oh, I choked on the GC there. But anyway, we're over the big stage. We're over stage 8, the stage that will on paper bring the deciding factor for GC, or can stage 9 bring the difference? Because it's actually not an easy stage, Patrick. 123 kilometers, once again, relatively short between quotes, starting off in Pras-sur-Arly, finishing in Chartel-les-Portes du Soleil, and I'll jump in with the door open. We start off at a descent start, but the first climb is 6 kilometers, 7% after roughly 25, 27 kilometers. The second climb is the big one. In the exact middle of the stage, the Col du Plan, 11.6 kilometers, 8.5%, then a descent, then a false flat downhill, 13-kilometer valley to the third climb of the day, which is the Col du Corbier, 5.9 kilometers, 8.3%, also really hard, actually. And then a descent, and then a false flat uphill to the finish line, basically, for the last 30-ish kilometers. And that finish does have some ramps in the sense of 1.4 kilometers at 7%, 2.2 kilometers at 5.5%, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, to me, this looks like the kind of parkour where if you want to do a complete raid in GC, you destroy Jouplan, and maybe you've got Vollering and Reusser or something riding from there to the next climb, and we'll see what happens. Or we could also see similar action on the third climb, which is 5.9 kilometers at 8%, which is also relatively hard. So this does have raid capabilities for me.
I think this is going to be an outstanding stage. I mean, the Jouplan is brutal. That's where Padun dropped everybody in the breakaway in the Dauphiné in 2021. You know who else? I think he dropped Vingegaard. Oh, no, he went faster than Vingegaard. Was Vingegaard in the break? Nah.
I do not remember Vingegaard being there in my head.
Anyway, and then Padun did the shittest descent you ever saw in your life off it, but he had a big enough margin. And that's going to be like 11.5. This is going to be 45, 50 minutes at 8.5% with some steeper sections. Then with a technical descent down to Morzine or tricky descent. I mean, the Corbière, 6K is 8.5%. That's also really hard. I think Vollering's going to come under a lot. Whoever's in yellow, you can lose it. Even if you got a minute gap here, 2 minutes, you can get rolled here. If you let Reusser up to go in the valley and then you got second place sitting in your wheel, this could be big, big problems for whoever's isolated and defending their positions. I think it's going to be tricky for a Bradbury, Gigante, Bunel, because the valleys are going to kill them. But for a Reusser, Elisa Longo Borghini, or a Vollering if she needs to take back time, this is a great opportunity where you've got super hard climbs, valleys where there'll be no helpers, and still an uphill finish. So I think this is going to be a good stage.
Ooh, valleys without helpers. Who do we think of in that sense? Maybe Reusser. That's the kind of rider I think of for that. But in pure climbing, the Giro women's race didn't necessarily shout at me either when it comes to Reusser. So I'm having a little bit of doubt when it comes to her winning capabilities for this stage. I don't know, man. This looks like it's going to be a great stage, but I have a hard time picking a winner for this. If it wasn't the final stage, I'd say, okay, someone like Lecour, Pinard, etc. But considering it's the final stage, and we might see a raid on that Col de Juplin, which is still in the middle of the stage, then it could be two riders riding to the finish line, no?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go with Elisa Longo Borghini. I think this is her terrain, and I think she sneaks away, and maybe she's out of GC enough that she can, I'll
go Reusser.
You go Reusser, I'll go ELB. That concludes the stages. I think for the teams with two leaders like Soudal, I think you just hope that Gigante stays in GC. It's not like she's going to be able to help KLCP on the first stages anyway.
KLCP.
And then you let them do their thing on the Madeleine. And is how I would approach it. It's all about the Madeleine in that last stage. So, like, even if you lose a minute, even if Bunel, Gigante, even if they lose a minute and a half in the first 5 stages with some getting cooked on the hills, they can take a lot of time back for the podium or for top 5 in that final climb. Vollering's the deserved favourite. She's also got the strongest team on paper. They should be able to lock it down. I just got a bad feeling about Vollering though, Benji.
Okay. Is it Tour de Suisse that does it for you?
No, it's not just Tour de Suisse. It's just like the panic.
Is that Vuelta post?
She has to be way stronger than everybody else to win. Not just 1% stronger. She has to be way stronger.
Why?
Because if there's a problem, she has to solve it. Reusser and ELB are smart, and they will use Demi, and they'll put pressure on her and know that she will start to panic.
Yeah, but her team's good, eh?
It's good, but will she have teammates after the Juplin?
It depends on the race situation. On paper, you'd say no.
I don't think so.
But neither will the competitors, and then it's 1v1v1 and...
Yeah. And then ELB in third jumps in that valley, and Roy looks at Vollering and says, not my problem.
And Vollering has to ride?
Or she just freaks out.
It's happened before, so it's not unrealistic.
So I really see that last stage as if you're in yellow, it can be a big problem, and you better hope you have teammates around. Listen, maybe she has 3 minutes, and in an ideal world, she has at least Shabby 30 seconds behind, and you just wait for Shabby. Yeah. And I think that's the key for them. But it's easier said than done.
Patricio, prediction time. Starting off with the white jersey. I think we've kind of hinted at it already. I'm leaning towards Julie Bigot because she's the leader on paper for Cofidis. And if I go through the other teams, there's other candidates for that, like Marion Bunel at Visma Leasewijk. But I would then expect Ferrand Prévot to be the focus for GC if Ferrand Prévot has the legs on the long climbs, which you will know late in the race. So if Benel spends the first 6 days riding powerfully for Ferrand Prévot, then it might be too late by the time you know Ferrand Prévot doesn't have it to focus on the white jersey for Benel.
Oh, so I also kind of like with Gigante. I don't think Benel is helping much positioning in the northwest of France, but that also means that probably there won't be riders helping her either if she gets put on a gap. But I think Bunel should win white. Just that climb is so long, and she's on that sort of 1 hour climb that steep. She's probably top 5 in the world. So I think she will just take so much time back there. But it's not that many riders eligible for it. I think for the points jersey, I think Voss will take it because of some intermediate sprints, and maybe she'll make some finishes that Wiebes doesn't make, and she'll be still competitive in the flat sprints because they're kind of uphill sprints still, but it'll be close. And ST Works definitely has the best lead out and the best versatile lead out, Kopecky for Wiebes. KOM, don't really know. I guess we'll go to the GC leader. My podium. I'm going to go with Niewiadoma third. I'm just going to do it in the... Royce is second, Vollering first. It's boring. It's also what I think.
Ooh. I am going for... I've got Vollering to win this Tour de France Femmes. I've pointed at it already. I expect Niewiadoma to show up and actually be consistent in the sense of a top 3. So I see Niewiadoma coming third in this race. I do think the last stage worries me a little bit when it comes to Niewiadoma, for some reason. The Chambéry stage doesn't. That helps her a bit, if I recall. Now, I don't see it for Van der Breggen. I don't see the podium for Lecourt-Pinard and for Ferrand Prévot. Gigante's climbing level is good enough, but I don't necessarily trust her on a raid stage like the final stage, so she might fall apart there. I don't want to say Reusser as well for a second because it's so boring to pick that, but it's the reality of the situation, you know? So, Longo Borghini second. Fuck it.
Yeah, I was thinking about putting Longo ELB in there, but I don't think she's that good at climbing.
I fear so as well that she'll struggle on the big mountains.
Yeah. But she should be good in the in-between medium mountain stages. So I think it'll be a really good race. I think it's pretty open. It's more open than I was expecting at the start of the year. I think there are some opportunities for some breakaways, like a Bauernfeind, like a Justin Hakira, especially if ST Works don't want to control for a Kopecky. I can't wait to see Puck Peterson back in action. She hasn't done a stage race this year. So it's pretty cool to see her back in action, one of the stars of the sport. And yeah, Gigante is a pure climber who's coming into great shape. I think it's going to be really entertaining. The Giro Donna actually had some really good stages. I know many people couldn't watch it because it was on during the men's Tour de France, but actually it was quite entertaining, and I'm really looking forward to this race.
Do you feel like we'll see Nienke Vinke at the Tour de France Femmes for Team Picnic PostNL?
I guess she's their best climber, right?
Because then she's also white jersey equivalent.
Yeah, well then she's the favorite.
Sorry, but I'm going because the start list isn't there, but I'm going to pick her as my white jersey.
Yeah,
rider.
she should be the heavy favorite for the white jersey then.
Okay.
Okay. That's our preview of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Really looking forward to it. We'll have daily coverage, of course, beginning on Saturday when it starts. We should have said, of course, but it starts on Saturday. 9 stages this year. I'll have daily highlight videos of the stages on Lanterne Rouge channel as well. So I'll have wall-to-wall coverage. And I hope you enjoyed the recap or preview even. And we'll see you, I guess, with the men's recap later today. Ciao, ciao.